Victimization has been such a deep part of my identity. When we are identified with victimization, we cannot see it. Cautionary tales, sharing some of the juicy details for the benefit of the generations to come. Labor and the expression of worth. My first wife, I allowed her to tell me, well, she had some pretty deep control issues. And when I confronted her on those issues, she told me that if I ever called her controlling again, that she would divorce me. And of course, I really had to bite my tongue, because at that point I realized I could not tell her how controlling that statement she had just made was. My first ex-wife and I attended therapy for 2 years, couples therapy. After 2 years, I decided that we needed to have a separation, and honestly, the separation in my heart was part of a solution. I knew that I had to untie my emotions from her. We were enmeshed. Our root systems were entangled. And when I suggested this separation in therapy, she blew up, calling me a motherfucker and a traitor, vowing never to go back to therapy again. And we never did. I went back to see our couples therapist once. I told him that it was my intention to last 3 more years in the marriage for the sake of my youngest daughter. My therapist actually laughed at me. He said, "Travis, you will not make it." And then he looked at me and he said, "Travis, you're not as sick as you think you are, as you have to make yourself to be in this relationship." My ex-wife once told me, when I was on family medical leave from work for mental health issues, she came into the music studio and she said, "You get the fuck back to work, or you get on down the road." It's either the hospital or work. She was good at giving choices. I gave myself up. I allowed all of this. I allowed myself to be treated this way. And the truth is that both of us brought a lot of baggage into our marriage. And we made it work. We had 3 kids very quickly. And both of us had a great commitment to our children. And I know that we passed down a lot of our shit to them. But these are important details, I believe, to my story, because for one thing, I'm discovering that I have to speak about these in the context of these are the things which I allowed, right? I allowed these things. In my more recent marriage, I got a really, really clear look at how I was literally asking for abuse, asking to be subservient, wanting it. travel the world in the 7 seas. Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused. Victimization has been such a deep part of my identity. When we are identified with victimization, we cannot see it. We cannot understand it because it's like a fish swimming in water. What is water? And it is my job to take responsibility for this. I can no longer be weak like this. I sold myself out. It's understandable. It is understandable, considering where I came from and just the state of humanity in general. Waking up from a situation that is less than love and being born into love seems to be a lifelong process. There is a waking up, there is a growing up, there is a waking up, there is a growing up. A seed goes into the ground, dies, roots go down, leaves go up, nutrients from the death, rot, and decay of the soil, sunlight absorbed through our leaves. Birds eventually grow in the branches. Natural death and rebirth cycles in our lives. It's understandable how these things can happen. It's understandable, and it's also important that we wake up and that we take responsibility and that we're capable of telling these stories for our children's sake and their children. It is important.